So our next guest is Chris Morehouse. He has a book called Legacy. It's the wisdom of African tradition and the Bible. And he connects the two together in his book. And he also was at the National Black Book Festival. I think it was in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted and honored to participate this year. And yes, it was 2023. Obviously, I might be a surprising candidate. I can't claim to be a Black author, but I can't wait to talk about the book. And I want to honor and recognize my 30 African collaborators who helped guide me through the process, and not from every culture represented in the book, but from significant ones: the Yoruba, Zulu, Bakongo, Swahili, Wolof, Bambara. It was a blessing every step of the way.
Oh, so
Wow.
did you travel to Africa and meet your collaborators?
I did not. I did not. The bucket list is Addis Ababa and Aksum. But I trained in grad school to be a Peace Corps type or USAID type person, right?
Okay.
And I met people from Tanzania, Nigeria, uh, 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 other countries, Mali, who were sent there by the governments to learn development studies and to manage projects in their countries. And it opened up a whole new world for me. And I began collecting compilations of African proverbs at that time. Some of these proverbs have stayed with me for 30 years. I mean, I'll
Yeah,
go back to,
show your book cover.
Yeah.
Show us some
thank
book
you, Legacy, Wisdom of
legacy.
African Traditions and the Bible. And I would sit with these books and go back, and through every move, after several moves, we kept these books. We threw out dozens of other things, but they stayed with me. Turns out for a purpose, I believe. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I got the idea to put the book together. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that process. And um, I was reading books about comparing the great religious traditions, the parallel sayings of Jesus and Muhammad, Jesus and Moses. It's a braided tradition, but
Mhm.
and they compare verses from the scriptures of each faith tradition on topics like compassion and forgiveness. And it's very enlightening. But I thought y'all need an African volume in this series. Why hadn't anybody done that? And I sent a proposal off, didn't hear back, and I with holy boldness or just regular old foolish boldness, maybe. I thought, well,
You didn't have
I'll,
anything to lose
right.
at that point.
I thought I'll do it. I'll do it because this is so compelling. This is so exciting. And it's honestly, it's been a blessing every step of the way. So, I'll give you an example. The Ovambo, they're a people of Namibia, just northwest of South Africa. They have a proverb: eyes see me too, which strikes me as the very essence of seeing the beam in your own eye and not worrying about the mote or the speck in somebody else's, right? That
Right.
is, see me too. That reflects the humility that is needed to for any kind of spiritual growth, focusing on yourself. And so these are the kinds of things I was that inspired me. And that particular proverb is one that has stayed with me for 30 years. Eyes see me too. It's stunning and beautiful. And there's something magical happens when you put the traditions in dialogue. You know, I don't know if you've ever been to a church or other house of worship with that poster showing the golden rule from different
Oh,
faith
yes,
traditions around
yes.
the world, right? Look for the African version. of the Golden Rule.
Okay.
Chances are you won't find it. I don't know why. I don't know why, but they almost never. I mean, I've seen one version of that posted with, but and I'm sure I missed a few, but there's a beautiful. I found at least 7 versions of the Golden Rule of do unto others.
Mhm.
And there's a beautiful version of the Golden Rule from Madagascar in the Malagasy language, which is if you know what hurts yourself, you know what hurts others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. And so that's
That right. That is the
similar.
whole idea of do unto others. It's set. It's a different idiom, right? It's
Mhm.
it's in a negative kind of context. So the 30 African collaborators I worked with helped guide me in several ways. I asked them to corroborate: is this really a proverb in your culture? I I submitted to them the proverbs I intended to use from all the compilations and the books and websites I'd consulted. Is this really a proverb? In some cases, no. So I disregarded them. What's the context? Is it used with children, for example? And are there translation issues that would enrich our understanding of English? And I had 2 lovely, wonderful collaborators from Madagascar, and one of them, Melody Ramanandra. I love their names. Um, she said, "Yeah, that one is used with children. That one is used with children." And the word that you found in the English language version in the proverb compilation that you found, hurt, in my language, Malagasy, it means pinch. So putting those 2 together, I don't know about you, but I hear a mother's voice. Don't
Mm.
pinch somebody. You know what a pinch feels like,
Yeah.
right? It's the tenderness of a mother's voice. It's the warmth of a mother's voice. It is the golden rule from a different perspective, a different angle. And it is time that this treasury of wisdom is acknowledged.
It
And so,
strikes me that, we call Africa the motherland. So why would we be surprised that there are mother isms, so to
right,
speak?
right, right.
And so I'm glad that you're bringing those to light, because we don't always hear. We always hear, if you want to go fast, go alone, or if you want to go far, go, or no, if you want to go far, what is it? If you
If
want
you
to
want
go
to go far,
fast,
go
go
alone.
alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
That was in the most recent Lion King movie. Yeah.
Yes. But I actually heard it before the Lion King movie.
Yes,
Way
right,
before the
right.
Lion King movie.
It shows
Yeah.
they used, yeah, they consulted. There was another one. There were a couple of I'm gonna forget now, but um losing the way is one way of finding the way.
Mm,
Losing the way is one way of finding it, which is a
I can I
beautiful
can I can
paradox.
I can relate to that.
yeah.
Amen. Right? Right?
Mm. It's sort of
Um,
like making a mistake is how you learn what
exactly.
you shouldn't do.
Exactly. Right,
So,
right, right. And I paired that with all things work to the good for those who love the Lord, right? If you are trusting God, if you're trusting God, that God is with you on the journey, you can learn from getting lost,
That's
mm.
right?
true.
Now, with your collaborators, I have a question.
Yes,
Were
ma'am.
you working with them on written? Because I know the oral tradition is very prominent in African cultures, tribal cultures, and in African American culture, because a lot of our traditions and our stories were told orally before we started having the ability to write them here. But were you getting a combination of the two, oral and written, in terms of what you were hearing from these different collaborators in the cultures and the
What
proverbs and what you
obviously they're it's tricky. They're all oral, but we're all working in written media. I went to a gig work platform and posted, looking for Yoruba writers to give me background on Yoruba proverbs. But the outpouring, the graciousness of, here's another proverb for you. Here's another verse for you. And my publisher had original content restrictions, like which limited like the quoted material, but which included both proverbs and verses. So, you know, but I was really touched by how moved they were and how excited they were by this project. Because they also, there's nothing like this in our country. Right, because the legacy of colonialism was, you know, nothing important happened before we came, right? And so these proverbs persist in their cultures, but the traditions are being eroded a little bit by modern life. But it was just, and sometimes you find versions of the same or similar proverb from different cultures, maybe neighboring, but maybe, or sometimes distant cultures, which, you know, I infer they travel, right? They resonate with another people who pick it up and say, this is meaningful for us too. So it gives you, there's a wealth there to ponder and contemplate and inspire. One thing about some of the collaborators had special resources. A couple said, "Oh, I have access to the National Library." Great, you're in. Another said, yeah, another said, I mean, they brought with them not just the enthusiasm and support, but like, you know, some of these special access. And one said, I have access to a royal family. Okay, thank you. Yes, please. And one said, I have access to rural women. And these are all keepers of the knowledge, right? And so, you know, it was a blessing every step of the way.
Hmm. Now, what is your background and what led you on this path? I know you said you had started with the Peace Corps, or you did some Peace Corps travel work or something. I don't want to misquote what you said.
Yeah, in graduate school, I pursued development studies with a focus on Africa. My undergraduate major was French, so I thought I could do Francophone or Anglophone Africa or both.
Mhm.
But even before that, I mean, when I may have been 11 or 13 when I sent away for records. Do you remember those? LPs, teach yourself Swahili. And
Oh,
right, I was just fascinated by these cultures, and I wanted to learn everything I could.
so this was before YouTube
This,
for
yeah,
those who were
this is
Gen,
this is
was it
ancient
Z or X?
history. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, this is for YouTube back in the ancient times, like my daughter says.
Not ancient times.
right,
That's what she'll
right,
say. That's before the
but
internet. That's ancient
right.
times to her. But anyway, but so yeah, they did used to have those. I remember seeing ads for those, like in Ebony or
Right,
Jet or one
right,
of the black magazines back in the day.
right,
You could
right,
teach yourself
right,
languages with vinyl.
right, right. So I don't know what inspired me, but I wanted to learn as much as I could about
So did
each
you
of these
learn? Were
cultures.
you able to learn? Were you able to use it?
I just joined a Swahili language uh, a discussion group at my workplace,
Wow.
which includes some native speakers. So I'm learning. It's got 7 noun classes. I don't know if you know anything about it. And the subject, verb, adverb, adjective agreement is kind of burdensome, but you kind of get used to it a little bit. The sounds, there's no clicks, there's no nasals, you know, the sounds are really easy for an English speaker, but it's the 7 noun classes. So,
Yeah,
but
a lot of that
so
happens. Well, for when you are learning other languages, just the verb, the tenses, and all of that. That is,
right.
I took French, but I didn't. I only took it. I was good at it too, but it was just an elective. I was never planning to go to France or anything like that. Or well,
I
at
plan
the
to.
time, I would love to go. I haven't been, but at the time, that was not my plan. It was just an elective, and I think we had to take some French, and then I took it as a course, as an elective. and I was good at it. I was good at the subject verb part, the tenses and all of that. So, but I couldn't. I only know a little bit of French, so only a
Well,
tiny bit. But Rhonda lived in Belgium. Do they speak French in Belgium? Rhonda just went
yes,
off. She just clicked off. I don't know what happened.
in the southern
Happened in
part.
her collection. In the southern part of Belgium, because she spent, I
Yes.
think, 5 years in Belgium. She said
Wow.
she was in the military.
Oh,
She's retired military, so she'll probably pop back on. I think she
okay.
might have lost her connection because she froze up for a minute. Her and that's sometimes when your internet,
Sure.
sometimes your
That's
modem,
that's fine.
the Wi-Fi doesn't cooperate, and so um, now when did your book came out in 2023, the year that you came to the festival,
That's right. Yeah.
and so what have you been like? What have been the venues and the events and the places that you've gone to talk about your book?
Uh, in it, in addition to the National Black Book Festival, where it was lovely to attend, but the books didn't get there. Even in spite of that, I was invited to a Black History Month celebration in Philadelphia last year.
Okay.
I was participated in the Printers Row Lit Fest in Chicago this
I've
fall.
heard of that.
And it's huge. It is huge, but so many interesting people, theology students, and I mean, many African Americans, and a Jewish woman who translated, worked on a book of Assyrian proverbs, and just a really diverse, large group of people. I talked nonstop for 2 days. I was so happy. I've done some podcasts. There's been a couple other book festivals. I'm planning to apply to a couple more this spring. Geez, I could talk about the book all day long, and I'm open to, speaking to churches and other houses of worship and book clubs as well. So please convey that. I would love to. This is wonderful, wonderful stuff. I'd like to share another proverb. The Wolof in Senegal in West Africa have a proverb: if there is cause to hate someone, the cause to love has just begun. I mean,
Wow.
right, that is the whole idea of loving one's enemy, right? That
Yeah.
is what Jesus taught. That is to see everyone as a potential friend,
Yes.
right? I've never heard a more beautiful expression of that idea than from the Wolof. So you know, it's wonderful to sort of contemplate these ideas again in a different idiom. And it gave me, you know, having studied a little French, it gave me a sensitivity for language and what um, what added dimensions that might add. The Swahili of East Africa have a proverb: anger, loss. The shortest proverb in the book, 2 words: anger, loss. And that, that I pair that with, Paul's "in your anger, do not sin." You know, own your anger, experience your anger, but do not
But sin
cause
not.
loss,
Mhm.
right? Cause loss for yourself or for other people. And in Swahili, the word for loss, it's hasira hasara. So in Swahili, translating to English, you lose some rhythm, you lose some alliteration, but it's still a really compelling idea in just 2 words. And the Swahili proverb hasira hasara, the second word hasara means, in addition to loss, can also mean damage. And both are true. In your
But
anger, do
it seems like you have spent a lot of time studying these proverbs because you're able to rattle them off
I sit
from
with that.
memory, and you're not reading them, you're reciting them. And so it sounds like you spent a lot of time on studying these.
I did. It was very enriching, and they have a way of like sinking into your soul.
Mhm. Now, when you said you work with the collaborators, were you meeting them online? Is that how did you meet them? Like, how did
I
you
met I
connect
met
with
some of
them?
them online. Yes,
Okay.
yes. and just submitted, here are 4 proverbs from the book. Can you corroborate them for me? And tell me the context, and tell me, are there any translation issues that we should be aware of?
Okay.
So, could not have done it without them.
Because some things do get lost in translation, or the
Yes,
translation is not precise. It's not
right.
exactly, and that happens in all languages. Now, did you study? Did you said you studied French? Did you
Yes.
did you study any other languages?
I can get by in some Romance languages. I attempt a little bit of Russian, a little bit of Japanese, and and my goal is to learn how to say thank you in as many languages as possible.
Okay.
Asante, of course, is Swahili. Amaseganalo is Amharic from Ethiopia. Ngiyabong is Zulu. So I
Okay.
thank you gets you
Well,
a
you
long
know
way.
French. Merci. I know that. And let me see. What's thank you in Spanish? I know please is por favor. Gracias.
Gracias. Yeah,
How could I
right.
forget? 'Cause, I'm surrounded by Spanish speakers in Houston.
Sure, sure.
So it's in fact my neighbors are Spanish. One's from El Salvador though, not because not Span- Spanish speakers are in a lot of different countries, not just Mexico.
Oh, completely,
So
completely.
yeah, so
My my goal would be, I really would love to get the book translated into French, Spanish, Portuguese, because with
Mhm.
English, those are the all the official European languages of Africa. And for a while, I was working with a lovely Afro-Mexican lady, who was willing to take that on, but she said, "There's nothing like this in my country," which I heard from other collaborators too. There's nothing. This doesn't really exist. I mean, the closest that comes to it is in the early '90s. Archbishop Desmond Tutu uh, wrote the African Prayer Book with parables and liturgies and poems, and some proverbs, but not paired with Bible verses. So this is the missing volume in that series, or at least I hope it is. I'm sure others could build upon it, and I hope they do.
now your rather than talk about countries, African countries, you talk more about African tribes or people from
Oh,
because they're not all necessarily concentrated in one of the African countries.
the legacy of colonialism was these artificial borders split,
Yes.
related
Mm,
peoples, right?
right. Right. So, but except for Madagascar, you did talk about that connection.
Yeah, it that is such a wonderful place. That is also a bucket list place for me.
It
It's
it
the
is me too. It's on my list too. I haven't made a trip to Africa yet. I haven't gone out of. I've only been in North and South America. Just so I haven't been the Caribbean and the Caribbean. So I haven't been to Europe yet. Haven't been to Africa yet, and I've been to Asia. But those are my bucket list trips. Um, I thought I was going to be going to Europe this year, but it would be next year instead, to the Mediterranean. And I haven't decided which African country I want to visit because I would have to pick one or maybe two. Um, so I don't know, but I've heard there's some,
I,
and I love cruising, and I've heard that there's some amazing river cruises in Africa.
there are.
Um, so that I know people who have gone. So I'm going to perhaps look into that because cruising I really love. I can't swim, but I love being on the water in a ship.
Right.
So,
We we can chat offline. There are travel agencies that specialize in Africa that will like give you a package of Senegal and South Africa. So
okay, okay.
right.
Well, show us your book again, your book cover, and it's called Legacy:
Right.
Wisdom of African Traditions and the Bible. And just congratulations to you on um, taking on this project and sticking to it. Because it
Yes.
sounds, how many years did it take you to
it was like 5, 6 years. It was
yeah, I
five,
could
six
tell.
years.
Yeah, I could tell it was one
To
of those kind of
do the
projects.
research, look, line up the art, get the collaborators, yeah. And then working with my publisher, it was just, yeah.
Now,
But it was a
is
blessing
this your
every step of the
first
way.
book? Is this your first
It's my
book?
first book. Yes.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, congratulations on putting the
Thank you.
information out there. It's an amazing comparison. A lot of times when you're a writer, you have a vision or a premise or an idea that you don't see written somewhere else in another book or the way that you would present it. And so that gives you an idea for something that you can do, especially if you're
All
dealing with nonfiction. Because fiction can be, you can make up 1,000 stories for fiction. For nonfiction, you
right,
have to kind of look at an angle that hasn't really been covered or that hasn't been covered the way you would cover it.
right. Well, all the eloquence is borrowed from these proverbs. Not for me. I have little essays about what I think, and then I quote my collaborators to cite what they said, what they told me about the proverbs and the context. But it's all it's the and I tried to get out of their way. Do you know what I mean? In writing
Yes,
it,
yes,
right? Right. And
yes.
but it's all due to them. In Africa, proverbs have evolved to a high art. They are meant to be memorable, right? So,
Yeah, they're
right,
all, it's really poetic.
it's
Um,
exactly,
the way that
exactly.
you recite them is really poetry.
Yes, I could not agree more. Could not agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks again for the warm welcome in 2023 in Houston. I
Oh,
had the
you're
best
welcome. You're
time.
welcome. You're so welcome. And we hope to see you again soon and hope to hear continued success with your book, with your work
Well, thank you
that
so
you're doing.
much.
Okay, have a great
Appreciate it.
evening.
Thanks, you too. Take
Okay,
care.
you too.
Bye.
Bye bye.